Thanks, bud.
Got some fresh brews over here.
Yeah.
I like that.
We got a classic city lager from Creature Comforts here north of where we're at right now. So shout out to Creature Comforts.
Athens, right?
Yes. Hey, cheers.
I'm gonna keep drinking coffee.
Yeah. It's late. It's late in the afternoon. I get it. Some of us need coffee. Some of us are ready for the extracurricular, as it were.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Or is it 8 o'clock in the morning? Or is it a cry for help?
Welcome to the Brightful podcast, where we help you stay happy and inspired to create your best work. We are Brightful, branding and marketing studio, hanging out here in the 1904. Jonathan's doing his hair. Hanging out here in the 1904, very specifically in the 1904 Flourish Tap Room, our favorite local spot. Yes, there we go. Flourish Tap Room, our favorite local spot. On this podcast, we talk about the things that inspire us, hopefully inspire you to do your best work. Things like graphic design or Instagram accounts or blogs or books or movies or video games or all that stuff we throw your way. And if you're wondering where to find all this stuff, we put all the links in the description on the YouTube channel and everything on the brightful.co. That's our website. You can check any of this out anytime. Let's jump right in. Who's kicking us off?
I think that's you, buddy.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Well, for mine, I think I threw my iPad.
You did. You threw it down.
I hope it didn't crack. It didn't crack anything.
Okay, that was close.
Love that. To kick this off, you guys are no stranger to the fact that I love sneakers. In fact, we come with the heat. What's on the feet right now? Hold on. What's on the feet?
Just some old Nike high tops.
Those are
SBs.
cool.
Yeah, man, I love these.
I like those.
The SBs, that's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Is this the one with the broken swoosh on it?
It is. This wasn't going to be one of my inspirations for the day, but it can be a brief one. The idea that Nike can take, they've got such brand recognition that they can take their icon, their swoosh, and they can break it up and, just tear it apart and it still be recognizable and it still be as brand strong as this one on the inside. And even just the idea of like, well, we can tear this apart because we've got the main lock up here, and this will support that. And if you don't know what that is, you know
hey,
what
Tyler.
this is, or you know what the tongue is. Tyler's here, everybody.
Tyler is the bartender.
Local favorite here.
Over across the hall. He's
Yeah.
great.
So, yes, we do love Tyler. Sorry, I was thinking about. I was trying.
Back to the Nike logo.
Yeah. I was trying to think in my head. I'm like, there are a handful of brands who you can just show their icon and it hold enough power.
Arguably the greatest logo in the world. Arguably.
I'm sure people could make that argument.
Yeah, for sure.
Jonathan, how often do we? Let me not cut your thought.
No, it's good. I'm just thinking what a cool. Imagining being Nike, imagining being Starbucks. I'm trying to think. McDonald's,
Apple.
Apple. Yeah, like to get to that point. Like you've done so many things right, and I just love it. I also love your shoes.
Yeah, love the shoes. I think those are great. Your Jordans,
my Jordans.
Those are some heat with the camo.
Yeah.
I love those very much. We're gonna transition this, I promise, and I think this is great. Arguably the greatest logo. I'm hitting that because how many times have we done like brand strategy, logo design? Brand work, and then we always like in the brand strategy sessions we sit down with people, and one of my things is like, hey, what do you love? What logos do you love? What colors do you love? What things do you, because we try and make things really personal. How many of them are like,
Apple.
Yeah,
always Apple.
We love Nike and Apple. Their logos are perfect, and we're like, got it.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
Doesn't help us at all, kind of.
Yeah,
but I think it's
they've
great.
been around for quite a while.
Thanks.
Billions and billions of dollars in advertising.
On my feet. Ooh.
The New Balances.
New Balance 515s. These are the Cognacs. Love these simple shoe. They're not even an expensive shoe.
Oh, man.
There's something about sneaker culture. There's like half the sneaker culture that's very much like hype shoes, just like the hypest of hype. And
clout. Get the clout. Get the
clout. Trying to get the clout where it's like, I like to be on the other side where I'm like, well, I don't care if it's a $40 shoe or $400 shoe.
You once tweeted something like, hey, like a Grail can mean a $15 shoe or like a $7,000 shoe. Like it's all about the personal value.
Exactly.
That was a really interesting.
I think there's something in, I don't know if it's broader than sneaker culture, it might be, but there's something in sneaker culture and fashion culture that's like the more expensive, the better. and yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are definitely expensive shoes that there's some Off-White Air Force Ones that are like $1,500, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have those.
Bro, I can say I love, like, I have a couple of pair of shoes that cost more than I probably would have ever spent, but it's like my favorite shoe, like gun to my head, are my like Vans slip-ons that cost me like $35.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and it's just because of the emotional connection I have to Vans, the brand. Like I've
Shoes
been
are
wearing them for
shoes are all about the
years.
story, and I
Yeah.
think that's a good segue to actually just real quick. We can shout out your Instagram account.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it's not mine.
No,
You can. We could shout out the one that
Friends
I'm.
with sneakers,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, dude.
Friends with Sneakers. We'll put it in the show notes. I see you shouting out mine. Actually, I am shouting out a sneaker account. I think that's
okay.
why I got
well, you
humbled up.
confused it.
yes, I was shouting out yours, not
Yeah.
your inspiration. for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's true. I launched Friends with Sneakers. It is truly just like I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
In the sense of I wanted sneakers to be a connection to other people than a highlight of me.
Yeah. Sure.
Like I do
Like,
love,
look what I've got. Look what I've.
Yeah, yeah.
It's- yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And to say that I'm not bashing the guy I'm about to shout out.
Totally.
Because he does do that in a sense of, but not in a prideful way, just in a sense of like his account is his sneakers. But I liked an account where it's like, hey, I know a lot of people that have really dope sneakers that I'm like, oh, can I use this as an opportunity to do a photo shoot with them, talk to them, and figure out why they wear the shoes that they wear?
I think sometime soon on one of the next podcasts, you need to tell your story about bearded boards. I'm just making a note of it because
I was never going to do that, but I kind of love that.
I want you to because it started with the concept of like, no, I just like people playing guitars. I like to talk to people who play guitars, like, and it became a business. So not now, but
I'll use that on the next one.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Bearded boards will be the next one if you guys don't know what it is.
Spoiler alert.
But anywho, I do want to shout out an Instagram account. We'll do the scroll. I have it on my iPad. I specifically do this because I don't have social media on my phone. Otherwise, I'm tremendously addicted.
Oh, totally.
And so I keep social media on my iPad because I'm not a hermit.
Yeah.
And I like to scroll through. But there is a sneaker account that I love for multiple reasons. The tag is @AD_sneaks. His name is Andy Dutton. And he's a middle school teacher and sneaker enthusiast. And like scrolling through his account, and I'm showing you guys.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But like his account
it's clean.
is just like, his account is sick.
So are all these his?
All of this is his.
Sheesh.
And it is just fire.
So he's not
It's
just a
scrolling
middle
on
school
the-
teacher, but he's also a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, I have
Wow.
these ratons.
Yeah, those are cool.
Sick, yeah.
But like all of this stuff, he has incredible sneakers.
Keep talking.
He has incredible sneakers. You're screen recording right
I am,
now.
because I'm like, you're going through all of it. We might as well screen record it and then use this as an asset.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I love it. On
For
the
everyone
podcast.
watching on YouTube, you'll appreciate that.
Yeah, and everybody listening on the
stops scrolling.
podcast.
Would you say?
Stop scrolling.
No, here I'm scrolling more.
Good.
For everybody listening on the podcast, you can obviously check him out and all this stuff. It's a great sneaker account where he's got a lot of very dope sneakers on here. But more than that, like he writes long form captions, like stories behind his sneakers. Alongside that, he takes incredible photography.
Yeah, it's
like
beautiful.
his photography is insane. He's got this super cool white wall, but he does things where like he hooks up mic stands and video stands to like make his shoes float. I'm trying to see if I can find one.
Yeah.
But he does stuff like that, and then he like photoshops it out. He does like this vintage preset. Man, this is a sick shoe.
Dude.
He does like a vintage preset on all of his sneakers that like honor the colors of the sneakers, because that's another thing with. Oh, here, let me see if I can turn this off. That's another thing with an account like this where. And Jonathan, you probably run into this a million times, but there's something about like when you share things that are physical designs, like you can't alter the colors of the sneakers, otherwise you're not portraying them correctly. And so he's got this really unique. When I see the photos, I was like, oh, that's an Andy Dutton shot.
That's awesome.
And so he's got this unique perspective that has niched him in. He's got like 90,000 followers on Instagram.
Dude, nowadays, all you need is a passion and like a little bit of a skill set, and you can rule the entire world. Like I love hearing things like that because he's a middle school teacher, but he's like, I know how to take photography. I like taking photography.
Yeah.
I love shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just paired them together.
Yeah. And That's so awesome.
And they call at his middle school. He's written this in his captions because I like to read them because I was like, dude, you're freaking awesome. They call him the sneaker teacher.
That's awesome.
At his middle school, and I was like, it's cool. So shout out Andy Dutton, dude. You're doing an incredible job. Great photography, great account. Follow you, man. You guys go give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Go follow him.
Yeah,
But
and again, the inspiration behind that, and just being anyone who is a creative or has aspirations to be a creative, like Jonathan just said, the idea of taking this thing and then this thing and kind of putting them together, right? Like, loves photography, loves shoes, and then he's got a little bit of talent. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. But if you're someone who's got a little bit of talent, you love certain things, you just figure out how to marry those, and you might find something that no one else has found or that no one else is tapping into. Because I mean, there are plenty of people out there taking pictures of sneakers, but nobody's doing it like he's doing it.
That's really rad.
Yeah.
I have a friend who just had a baby last year, and so you know how on like Facebook you'll see pictures of like a baby laying on a blanket, and it's like 1 month old, loves to lay there, loves to lay there, right? But like
to lay there.
But he'll take a picture of his baby every month, but then he'll have a pair of shoes too. So like,
oh, that's adorable.
And every time I see it, I'm like, I need to show Alan this, but it's like he'll.
I've never seen this account, by the way.
I mean, he's a dude, like he's just a friend. So it's really cute. But yeah, if you have a skill set, have a passion, you have no excuse.
Yeah.
Like
put it online.
Do it, because you get to learn while you build a fan base.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to learn first and then. Like our world is phenomenal.
Well, dang it, that leads right into mine. I was going to go last, but I might just go now.
Go next.
Yeah.
My inspiration for this week was less of an actual inspiration of something that's been created, but the idea of consistency. So
the idea of consistency.
The idea of consistency.
Okay.
You get better as you do the thing that you're trying to become a professional at, or that you're trying to get really, really good at. Like you look at in my field specifically with animation, with 3D design, with all that stuff. You look at guys like Beeple and like other and we'll tag him. Other creatives that are creating these everydays. So like Beeple's an artist who.
He's the NFT guy.
Yes, now he's the NFT guy. Yeah, so he was just like, I feel good about this thing and I want to get better at it, so I'm going to continue to do it. And he started on his own, just kind of creating these everydays, and they started off as like illustrations, and then started doing some 3D stuff, and then it became 3D animations, and then he started doing VJ loops, and so his career kind of like just grew because he knew he wanted to do this thing every single day. So he would just put up a still every single day. And he had, I think he's at like 13 years now. It's been a hot minute since I've kind of like.
He's posted every day for 13 years?
Every single day for 13 years. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was also a season where he was jumping online and he was actually creating them online while people like watched and stuff. And he gets called out to like Adobe and to Maxon, who creates Cinema 4D and Redshift and all that. And they'll have him out and he'll just hang out for like an hour and a half and he'll create this ridiculous 3D piece of art. And so he's had 10 years of that, and then when NFTs started popping off, he was kind of the leader of the NFT space for 3D art, and he's got this back catalog of at this point I think there was like 10 or 11 years of stuff that he was creating for himself, and he always said that's why he was creating it. So it's like this really honest, authentic work that he's creating because he's not trying to sell it, he's not trying to do anything with it, he's just trying to get better. And then the NFT thing blew up, and he's just like, someone was like, "Hey, well, you've got this whole back catalog. It's like the history of you. What are you gonna do with it?" And it's like, dude, well, I could probably like section it off and blah blah blah. But that's not the inspirational thing about it. The inspiration is like, he started on day one, and he just said, "I'm gonna make something every day. I'm gonna try my hardest to just like." At the time he was married. I don't know if he had kids yet, but he's like, I need to make time to do this. I'm going to set aside an hour. I'm going to set aside an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it takes. I'm going to do my day job. I'm going to do all my contract work. I'm going to spend time with my family, and I'm going to do this everyday thing because the growth of this will feed into all the other stuff. I mean, like he's doing album art for Imagine Dragons and stuff like that. And awesome. Love him or hate him, it's like, yeah, the album art is freaking rad, and they're a world known band and stuff. So, So the inspiration is just like, man, if there's kind of like what we were talking about, you love photography, you love sneakers, just go marry those two things together. It's like, if there's something that you love, do it every single day.
Yeah.
And don't do it vocationally every single day because that's your job. Do it for yourself. Tell your own story. Do your own thing. And again,
Yeah.
Beeple's obviously like that's like a needle in the haystack there. Like not everyone's going to have that experience,
Right.
But everyone could potentially have an experience just like that or similar, where you start off not being proficient and now you are proficient.
Something you said was like he was being, or you alluded to like it is uniquely him, right? Yeah. So what he's doing, the cool thing about both of those, again, I like shoes, right? Like I really do. I love shoe culture, but I'm not as invested in shoe culture as you are. I love watching the crap that you do. I have no interest in ever doing that, and I don't really like care much about it. But like I love both of those things because it is an artist with his or her unique voice. Mm-hmm. You can't that is something that you can't just make up. And
Sure.
And that's why those two things are successful, because it is their unique voice.
Yeah, and it's honest. They're not just doing it because they've seen this person succeed at it and sell $60 million worth of NFTs.
And it was never about money.
Right. Yes.
Yep. And that's the thing.
No, I mean, I think that caveat is perfect, because I think the two examples that we hit, and this probably goes right back into it, is that these two guys are deciding to create without having some crazy goal. It's more about the journey than it is the end result.
It's about the story.
Yes.
It's about the story.
Like Beeple's like, I'm going to just do it every day because I want to create art. And Andy Dutton is like, well, I love photography and I love sneakers, so I'm just going to post. Like Andy's not sitting here like, I hope I hit 100,000 followers.
Exactly.
And Beeple's not like, I hope I sell my NFTs for 1.4 million, whatever he did. He's not like hitting something. He's just like, it's all about the journey. And so that caveat of just creating.
It's the journey and the authentic voice.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
hit it.
All the way back in the year 2017, there was a film made.
Oh no. Okay.
What is this film?
Hold on, I'm trying to.
You'll know as soon as I start talking.
2017.
Yeah. Don't give us the name yet, but talk about it and let me try and see if I can.
In 2017, there was a film made. For context, in 2017, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was ruling everything. So every movie that the Marvel Cinematic Universe released would make $1 billion, and everybody loved it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And still does.
Correct.
Well,
That'll be another podcast.
Yeah.
Marvel Comics has always had a rival in the business, and that is DC Comics, right? DC Comics is visually and story narrative different than Marvel, right? So it's always been its own separate thing, uniting in the fact that it's superheroes, right? It's fictional.
Yeah.
In 2017, we got a movie called The Justice League. Okay? The Justice League, and I'm going to speak to you mostly because I know this is pretty outside of your world. Timmy's heard me talk about this a lot. We had a movie coming out, and it was called The Justice League, which for those of you who don't know, it's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and The Flash all in one team. And so it was, as a child who read comics, the idea of having all these characters on one team on one screen, I was screaming. They hired this guy named Zack Snyder.
Oh, is this a Snyder Cut thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Zack Snyder. I lost him.
We doing this again?
Yeah.
All right.
Zack Snyder, he was hired to basically make the DC films, right? So Zack Snyder made a film called Man of Steel, which was about Superman, and then Batman versus Superman, which was basically about Batman. So these two films were dark and gritty, but it was definitely, there was a narrative and there was a tone, and it
like
was
the theme was dark and gritty visually and all that stuff.
Everything was dark. So in juxtaposition with Marvel, which is bright and funny and goofy, you had dark, gritty, just violent, right? Which, to be fair, DC has always been that. So the core of the brand is dark and gritty. So basically, long story short, Batman versus Superman.
I was looking for my water.
No,
Literally,
it's fine.
I'm
You're
trying
both
to-
gone. It's fine.
No, we're here. I'm trying to do the mental gymnastics.
I was like, my mouth is dry, but
I will
I'm in.
figure out how we're gonna get to inspiration. But
got
keep
you.
going.
I got
Keep
you.
going. I got a beer. We're good.
I got you. So Zack Snyder released Batman versus Superman, and it didn't get as much praise as WB wanted, right? Which was
Warner
unfortunate because, which is unfortunate because Justice League had already been written and it was being filmed and everything. Long story short, a committee which again is a bad word for any art, came in and said, this is too dark, this is too gritty, this is too insane, we need it to be exactly like Marvel. So they literally fired Zack Snyder, and they hired the guy who did the Marvel Avengers film, Joss Whedon. So in their head, it's like, we'll get the guy who did the Avengers, and we'll make this movie just as good as the Avengers. The Avengers made, honestly, like $2.7 billion. It was one of the hugest films ever.
So DC's like, hey, we're not them, but we're going to try and feel and look like
exactly.
them. Okay.
So they were like, we need to cut it down.
Which is a bad thing for
committee kills.
Marketing. Not the best.
Zoom in on me. Committee kills. Committee kills anything good. So they basically fired Zach, and then they hired Joss, and they cut this film down from like 2.5 hours to 90 minutes. Okay. And it went from a trilogy to one film, right? Justice League came out. Joss Whedon's Justice League came out. It sucked. It was awful. It had no voice. It had no reason. There was no passion, zero passion, and it flunked. So usually in the film industry, a movie will come out and flunk, and it'll just be forgotten, right? But for this, there was a fan base who was like, no, like what Zack Snyder was doing with the films, and it was dark and gritty, not for everybody, but like he had a vision, and his vision was robbed, right? So an artist's vision was robbed. Through a social media campaign, the Zack Snyder Justice League was released in 2021. It's a 4-hour, gritty, sometimes boring film.
4 hours.
Oh, it's huge.
4 hours, and it's in four. It's
Bro,
in
that's
4x30.
half a work day.
It's filmed in
For normal
4:3.
people.
So instead of this, it's filmed like this, which is an artistic choice, right?
Yeah.
The movie's fine, right? So I'm bringing it up today is because I bought it the other day and I was watching it again for the 4th time, and I'm like, this is a fine movie, but it's infinitely better than Justice League before. And the reason is because it has a unique voice. It's the same with your guy who teaches and has shoes. I don't usually care about that, but like it brings me joy to know that he's doing that. It is a narrative. It is his unique narrative. Same thing with that dude that we met. I'm sorry. Beeple.
Mike Winkleman.
Mike Winkleman.
Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's his name. Is
Like
Mike Winkleman.
I could usually care less, but like an artist making art with his unique voice, it's inspiring, and it holds up against pop art, right? Like it just. So yeah, that was a long way of saying like an artist's voice in a project is very important.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the and we may have had this conversation where we talk about. I recently read a book, and this is not per se inspiration, but it's just a top off this, and then we'll wrap this up. I recently read a book by Marty. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Neumeyer or something like that. He's German, super smart, and he talks about zigging and zagging in the industry, branding, marketing, zigging and zagging. And oftentimes when you lean into your authentic voice, you get to zag versus like when you try and replicate something that's already, you're zigging, and zigging is like the most dangerous, risky thing you can do. And most everybody thinks like, oh, if I just do what the market does, I'll also be very successful. And it's like, no, because you're trying to copy somebody and you don't have that voice.
Right.
You don't know how to do that. You can try it. It's not going to feel good.
Right.
But if you zag, zagging is your voice, something different, something nobody can replicate because they don't have the exact skill set you have. They don't listen to don't listen to the music that you listen to as well as the movies and all this stuff in cohesion together. So you're unique. You will zag. Yeah. You will be who you are, and because of that, you'll be different. You'll make a splash.
And we talked about that too. It's the blue water thing, where it's like you have, let's just say, I come from the publication world, right? So like publications, it's been tough for them the past few years because of print cost and all that stuff. Yeah. So a lot of magazines are fighting in the same area, fighting each other, like in shark-infested waters, blood everywhere, right? So instead of saying, well, we need to make this magazine better, it's like let's go do blue water and say like, what is a magazine? Like, does
totally
that mean
different? Yeah,
let's forget everything that we know, and I think that's important, and I think zigging is important as well. It's like Zack Snyder could have made an art piece, right? If somebody gave me $1 billion and said, do whatever I want, it would probably be terrible. But just because I'm like, it would be solely me. But like, it's important to have an artistic voice, but also be responsible with the job.
Yeah.
Right. So like, if you hire me to do a logo, it's not going to be a Jonathan logo. It'll be a Jonathan and you logo.
Right.
So, yeah, long way of saying.
I love that. All
man.
the examples, all the inspiration we had today, really do land on that idea of like you whoever you are, you have a voice. You've got a story. You've got an experience. You've got things that when you put into an artistic medium, you know, whether it's writing or it's taking photos or it's shooting, you know, indie films or it's making an animation or it's print work, like who you are and what you've experienced is something that's going to show up in your work. And it's that thing that's going to make it art versus a committee saying this thing is popular, let's make this thing. You know, Beeple sold all his stuff for $64 million. How do we do what Beeple did and like mass produce, factory, hire this person and that person who will just do what Beeple did, and it'll have no heart, it'll have no feeling, it'll have no soul. And
you'll be miserable doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you'll be miserable. I just don't think the people, I mean, because again, the artist getting hired to do the thing for the committee will likely be fine because they're going to, if they're gonna allow themselves to get hired to do it, then they're fine. Like
Totally.
But you know, there's nothing. It'll get sniffed out as being what it is, which always happens. Like even when the NFT craze was at its peak, you saw artists literally just trying to do like the cash in.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna do all the stuff Beeple's doing, or we're gonna do all the stuff that this person's doing or that person's doing that's being, you know, successful on, you know, Foundation or whatever, and that stuff gets sniffed out and it doesn't get picked up. It doesn't trend.
Because it's
it doesn't
not
sell.
Authentic.
Because there's no story there. It's
Art.
It's like, oh, I'm now trying to tell your story, and I have no experience in your story.
They ignore the fact that people spent 10 years every single day.
Every day. Yeah.
Great. Hey,
Love it.
Love you, dudes.
Awesome.
Tell your stories.
That's it.
Tell them authentically.
Be you.
Go see Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh my! Don't
4
text
hours.
Timmy.
I'm not sure,
Don't do that.
but maybe. Yeah, I mean, you can if you want to. But hope you enjoyed this episode's podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.